So then, moving on, the movie I recommended Nadia was, let me see if I can find who directed. I should have had this down in my my notes before we started.
I didn't even look. I should have looked.
I don't think it's a yeah, I don't know who. Gillian Robespierre. I don't know who, what else they've done.
It felt very indie, so maybe it was just kind of, I doubt that this director has done
a
whole lot.
It looks like it's this, and then there's like one other movie that she's done. Yeah. So, Obvious Child is the movie where, I don't know if I even said. Obvious Child is the movie we're talking about. Like I said, directed by Gillian Robespierre from 2014, starring Jenny Slate. I forget the name of the guy who's in it, but
Is it Lacey something? No.
I don't. Jake Lacey. Yeah, he.
Yes.
So he. Wait, hold on. He's the dude. The guy she followed. Yeah. Okay. So Jake Lacey and Jenny Slate. Okay. So yeah, 'cause I'm just looking at this cast list and I'm like, man, there's so many generic names here. Who's which one is which? But yeah. So sorry. Obvious Child is a 2014 comedy movie, kind of in the similar style, I'd say, to Due Date, where it's very like, it's a very it's a movie you've seen before, where it's like a similar plot where this woman, where like nothing goes right for her, and then she makes a bad decision one night and ends up pregnant and has to deal with the consequences of that night. And what I really liked about it is, I don't want to spoil it just yet, but it is it's a movie we've seen before, like with Juno or Knocked Up, but it's very, it kind of goes about similar with Due Date. It has that sort of archetypal plot line, but it deals with its plot points in a different kind of way than what we've seen in those other movies. So I'm curious, what were your thoughts on it?
So if I can go on a little rant about it, I thought it was extremely bold, but in a good way. Like, I enjoyed it. It took on, a super taboo topic, and in some ways it was still very uncomfortable, but it was still funny, and I think that's what kept it going, because it was clearly, for me, I felt it was very dialogue driven, because the camera work itself, it was very simple, very indie, like I said before, but It didn't really need to be more than that, because everything else about it was intense, both like comedically and in the normal sense of the word intense. And I honestly felt like I related to her so much, especially like in the beginning. But first of all, like when it first opens, I was like, oh boy, this is how this is gonna go. But because it really gets to the point right away. Like, it's like, oh, boom, here you go. This is her. This is Jenny. This is it. But she's very, she's very bold. I don't have a better word for it, but during the breakup and everything, I felt for her, because I think everyone's gone through like a really crappy breakup like that. But even like when there wasn't like a whole lot going on at certain times, like her breakdown, when she's drunk. I don't want to give too much away. Can I give things away?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, her breakdown, when she's getting drunk in her room and she's calling him and over and over, and Ryan, or whatever his name was. He's not important. I felt like that was a little drawn out, but I was still drawn into it because of how relatable it was. Because it's like, we've all been there. But it almost didn't feel like a movie to me because of how simple it was and how Jenny Slate presented her character. She just felt very real. Like we were honestly just like friends sitting in a room. And I felt like it was almost kind of, or not even almost, I felt like it was revolutionary in how they handled the topic, especially like 2014. Like, I mean, it's only getting worse now, talking about abortion and everything, but it's such a taboo topic to talk about. And to make light of it in any way, I think it was done very well. Even though it was uncomfortable, they didn't try to jazz it up, or they didn't try to cover up anything. They didn't sugarcoat it. They just made it as simple as any other aspect of conversation. And in today's political climate, which I just want to just touch upon. It's kind of huge to support like the women's rights movement, kind of.
Yeah.
And it has this like I don't give a damn kind of message about
Right.
you know whether or not the viewer needs to wrestle with Donna's decision, who's Jenny Slate's character, Donna. Because she never once wrestled with it. She just knew this was what she needed to do.
Yeah.
And that's what worked for her. And Max, who was played by, I think he said Jake Lacey.
Yep, Jake Lacey.
You know, he was upset, you know, as, you know, many people would be, but ultimately he supported her. And I think that was so amazing because it was never really about the abortion in the first place. It was about this woman and her right to pave her own way and live her own life. And I think it tackles these real life issues. But I can also see why, you know, many people would have issues with this kind of film on the opposite end of this political spectrum. But ultimately, I think it was very revolutionary, especially just for like 2014 when it was like even more taboo to talk about. You know, now it's like everybody can just kind of come out and be like, yeah, I'm pro-life or yeah, I'm pro-choice, you know.
Right, yeah.
But back then it was kind of like hush-hush. People still didn't really, I'm saying back then like it was so long ago, but you know, it's,
the world moves so fast nowadays where it's like even 6 weeks ago, like it completely ignoring the mess we're in right now. Like 6 weeks ago always was like, oh wow, that ages ago. But
exactly.
Yeah. To like kind of speak on what you said, that was one thing that I really liked about it, because like with those other movies like Juno or with Knocked Up, there is kind of like the idea of abortion comes up, but it's always like kind of looked at like
keep it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
They never
it's
go
kind of
through
like
with it.
Right, yeah, or like completely ignoring like the decision of the character. It's kind of like demonized, like it's like in a way where it's like, oh yeah, this scary thing, or like they kind of the like I said, the archetype is kind of more in like the, oh, but look at this beautiful thing that came out of they came out of like a careless choice or whatever, and like you said, sorry, go ahead, no, go ahead.
Or if they do go through with it, it's just like, cuts from, okay, we're gonna do this, and then it cuts to after. Like this movie, spoiler alert, like you're in the room with her when she's getting it done.
Yeah.
Like there's like a scene where you're in the room, she's getting sedated, you know, you're there as she's filling out the paperwork, you're there right after. You know, it's like, and yet I still feel like the movie, yes, the abortion was like a big part of it, but I feel like that's not what it was like about. You know, it's not, and I feel like a lot of like people get hung up on that, or will or would get hung up on that. Yeah. But
it kind of not like it's like we need to normalize it, but it just treats it as like, no, this is her solution.
Yeah, this is what her decision.
Yeah. Right, yeah, it's like what you said. It's what she needed. Yeah, it's what she needed to do, and like she
just lost her job. She's like losing her income. She's losing. She can't. She didn't have another option, and it's like it's not like anybody was gonna sit there and pay her medical bills for her.
Right.
So it's, you know, she wasn't ready to be a mom, so she wasn't gonna keep it regardless. But even if she did give it up for adoption, she's still stuck with all those medical bills. So it's like that was like the wisest decision for her, her character, and that's what she felt she had to do. So that's what she did.
And I just love how it took this, like, again, archetypal story where it's like you got like the careless night of bad decisions, and then, oh man, this drama of like, what do I do? But like they kind of they change the drama from like, oh, am I going to keep it, or I have to carry it to term. Like they change it from that to like, how do I talk to this guy about it, and what is he going to say? How do I talk to my parents about it? And everyone in the movie is very forgiving, not like forgiving, but like understanding. Like they're very like, oh no, yeah, we understand you're going through a lot right now. And I that's one thing I really enjoyed about the movie, is that the characters are very, like you said, they feel very real. And I think that's definitely like one thing that kind of helps that, is that I feel like nobody really knows who Jenny Slate is unless you're like into comedy or like, you know, her previous stuff. And I think the one thing that kind of is the thing that pulls you out of reality is like in movies like Knocked Up or Juno, you have like, oh yeah, it's Ellen Page, or like so like you don't really think of them as the character, you think of them as actor going through this, and I think that definitely helped the realism aspect, is that Jenny Slate is kind of relatively unknown, but putting that aside, she puts out a really great performance. Like when she's drunk, like calling up her ex-boyfriend, like you really feel like, that's a drunk person calling up their ex-boyfriend, and that's
or
like
even the breakup itself in the bathroom. That just felt so real, because it's like, it's not like when people write a lot of like things that seem to be like small aspects of the movie, they don't take care in writing it. I feel like a breakup, the breakup needed to happen for like her to spiral out and ultimately make the decisions. So yes, it was like a big kind of point in the movie, but I feel like most people just kind of glaze over that when they're writing.
Right.
But this one just felt like, I don't know, like you'd have to, like, to the people watching or listening, like, you'd have to watch it to really kind of get what I'm trying to say, I feel like, because I just felt like it just felt so real, like, and she's like, what are you doing? Why are you looking? Like, look at me, like, and it's, I don't know, it's just, and like,
I think kind of like going off with what you said with the writing, it is kind of like, in that scene especially, like, I think that when you try and write something, I mean, like, we definitely understand because we've tried to, like, our hand at melodramas and all that, but, like, when you try and take, like, a moment like a breakup or where when you get down to it, it's a very simple thing. It's like, hey, I don't love you anymore. Hey, we need to call this off, and then they're done.
No!
But there's, like, there's always this desire, I feel like, when you're writing or when you're trying to do something like that, there's this desire, like, because we think of it as such a big moment, to try and make that scene as dramatic as possible, and like any other movie would have that scene, and it would be like this loud yelling argument, and it would end with like the ex-boyfriend being like, I just don't think you're not serious about life or whatever, and then he storms out, and then the movie is like her realizing, like, I don't need him in my life, I'm an independent one, and I can move on, like, and that's, like, it's like you said, like, he just kind of walks out of the argument, he's like looking at his phone or whatever, and it doesn't take it, like, I mean, there's obviously, she has a big reaction to it, as anyone would, but what I like about this movie is that in those scenes where you have like big moments where it's like, oh, I just got broken up with, or I have to tell my mom that I'm getting an abortion. Like they take those scenes and they don't dramatize. I failed at words right there. They don't over dramatize the situation. They treat it in a very real way. It's like you said, you're like watching it's like you're watching your friend go through something almost.
It's not Hollywooded up, and it's like you get the feeling that she's very real just based off of like her comedy just from the beginning, just it's like, all right, this woman's real, like, and how she interacts with her friend is like exactly how me and my best friend from DeSales, that's exactly how we interact with each other. I mean, I could see her coming in, to the bathroom and just deciding to like take a crap while I'm like doing my makeup or something. I could see it happening. In fact, it probably has happened at this point. You know what? I think it has. But so I felt like this movie, like, I felt like I really resonated with her. Granted, I haven't gone through the situation that she's going through, but I just felt like I could relate to her, and I just felt like it was very real. And even from the beginning, like, I liked how they used the mic feed from the board for her comedy acts too, because I felt like that was like a nice little touch, because they could have just used like regular old audio, but like no, they had that nice touch of like the mic and like the echo off the room and everything, and I thought that was cool. That was just like the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, I like that. But it
was a very nice attention to detail.
Yeah, but it was definitely dialogue driven. Because the camera work, like, it didn't need to be, so this isn't a knock, but I just felt like it was very simple, very, like, it was all kind of static shots. There was maybe like 4 shots that actually moved, and maybe only because they had to adjust for like how they moved. My cat just jumped in the shot.
Cameo number 2.
He agrees. But yeah.
I get you. It's definitely like a very it's a movie that kind of relies on the characters and the dialogue to kind of push it forward, and I think that's kind of true in any comedy. Like one of the techniques that the filmmakers will kind of use in a comedy like this is you'll have like the reverse shot, like static angles where you'll let the two people kind of like improvise a little bit, and then they'll just put the best of the best in the actual movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, and then I forgot. But I felt like it was it felt very improvised.
Yeah.
Like very good improv, because like, I don't know, like especially the breakup, it didn't feel like it was scripted at all.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it didn't feel that way. I feel like they probably just told her, okay, this is your scene, go. Just like in Due Date, where Robert Downey Jr.'s like, your wife has cancer, or go. You know, and it's like, I felt like that's kind of how they handled a lot of that, probably because she's like, I don't really know her very well, but she seems kind of comedically genius.
Yeah, she's done a lot of she does stand up. She has kind of some smaller roles in other comedy movies. I think she does a lot of I don't know if you're familiar with there was a YouTube short series, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Are you familiar with that?
No.
She was like, so yeah, she was like this. It's like this little stop motion animated like shell with like a googly eye in like the hole or whatever. She's done a lot of. She did voiceover work for that. A lot of voice roles. I'll pull up her IMDb, see what else she's done. I know she's done a lot of stand up, but she's not really like been as big in movies. Let's see. She was. She's Tammy on Bob's Burgers. I'm not familiar with Bob's Burgers that well. She's in Big Mouth, it looks like. Let's see.
I've seen some episodes of both of those, but they're not shows I ever got into.
Let's see if I can find any...
Tammy. Who's Tammy?
Movies.
People who watch Bob's Burgers are probably screaming at me right now. Who is Tammy?
She was in Zootopia, it looks like, as Bellwether. I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
So yeah, it just looks like a Secret Life of Pets. Oh wait, no, she's in. She's the white poofy dog in Secret Life of Pets. I forgot. I don't know the character's name, but I guess those are her like biggest roles. Is like if it's in like animation or stand up. Yeah, she's been in a lot of. It just looks like a lot of like smaller bit parts and then a lot of voiceover from what I'm seeing. But yeah, she's fantastic. And again, it's just like I think the fact that like we don't really know who she is kind of like helps us buy into like the realism of the movie more. Like, I mean, her performance is still great, obviously, but again, if this was like I said, if it was like Ellen Page, or I forget who the woman was in Knocked Up, but if it was like if you had like this well-known star, it wouldn't be as you would find yourself kind of thinking of them more in terms of the actor rather than the character, and so I think that's one thing that really helped this movie a lot. Sure. And again, the writing is great. There's a lot of moments where again it feels so real, like that scene with her after what's his face breaks up with her and she goes to his apartment sometime later, and she's like outside and she's like trying to rationalize being there, and she's like, okay, well, if he hasn't come out after I've taken 3 sips, then I'll walk away. And then like she does it, nothing. Okay, well, if I take 2 sips and this person crosses the street, then I'll go home. And, like it's like there's the moments like that that are just like.
And can I just say, I live my life like that. Like, I really do. I'm like, okay, on the count of 3, I'm going to get out of my car. And then it's like I hit 3 and I'm like, well, technically I don't have to be there for 5 more minutes. So, okay, I'm going to sit here for 5 minutes and then I'm going to get out of the car. And
like, 5 minutes rolls by and you're like, okay, now I'm going to count to 5 and then I'll get out of the car. But, yeah, no.
I live my life like that. So I related to her so much. Honestly, I really did.
Yeah, it really helps the movie. I feel like it's just again like it's such a powerful like performance, and the way that they show these things that are kind of not really like downplayed, but like kind of handled like they're still kind of handled lightly in this movie, I find, but it's it's the way that they deal with like the issues of like finding yourself and like, am I really doing the right thing with my life, and like handling something as touchy as getting an abortion. Like it's all done in such a very honest way, and I mean, there's comedy in it, but like these serious situations, and they are kind of played for laughs to an extent, but it's not. But it's never like looked at like, oh man, this is just a funny, slapsticky situation to be in, isn't it? It's like, no, this is a very like dramatic situation, and like these characters are using like comedy as a way to like cope with the fact that they're in an unfavorable situation. But it's just, I
think that's what made it so well done, though. Is that it was such a serious topic, and it could have easily been like a typical like dramatic like romance movie, but the fact that they made it so funny, like I was laughing throughout it, honestly, and so it's like I think that made it so well done, because granted, yes, it was very honest, like you were saying, but it also wasn't classy.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, it was not done classy, and I think that helped lend to the comedic aspect of it. But I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot, and I apologize if you can hear my cat yowling in the background. He just does this at this time of night.
I'm sure for some people watching, it's a nice distraction.
Yeah.
Like, let's get done talking about this boring indie movie. Let's look at the cat. No, it's
because I have one cat behind me. I have the other cat in the other room yowling. He's just like, wow.
Let me out. Let the podcast be over.
Yeah.
So I guess we're kind of, I guess, to wrap it up, just what were some of your favorite parts of Obvious Child then?
Ooh. Okay. So. Definitely any interaction she had with her best friend. That was really funny. And another thing was, when she was outside and she's taking the sips of coffee and she's just like, okay. And I'm trying to think, like, I think, I don't know, I really liked the entirety of it. And I know that's like kind of like a cop-out like kind of thing to say.
No.
But like there wasn't like one part of the movie, and I think that's just how it was done, that really stands out. And like, and that's not it. I don't mean that in a bad way. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. It's just kind of like it's just feel good throughout.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just, she's so funny. And it's like, even in the uncomfortable parts, when she's doing the stand up, when she's like super drunk right after, Ryan breaks up with her, and she's just like, Kate, and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh.
Romance is bullshit.
Yeah. Ew. And the part where she's with the other comedian in the loft, that made me so uncomfortable. Yeah. I was like, ew, just go. Was that David Cross?
It was David Cross, yeah.
I knew it. I didn't even look at the cast, but like, David Cross just has a way of making me feel uncomfortable for some reason.
And again, that's one thing that I really like, is that he kind of like he's uncomfortable, but he doesn't. It's not like that scene it's not uncomfortable in the way where it's like any other movie would have, like he would have been like full on like trying, like physically trying to hit on her, or like, and then she rejects him and he's like, what? I thought this is what we were doing. Like, it's a very real scene where she's like, okay, you know what, I'm done with this. And he kind of is like, oh, whatever. Like,
why don't we just talk about things?
Yeah. It's so great. I mean, it's still, that scene is still creepy, but again, it's like I said, it's handled in a very like a much more realistic way than like her going to his apartment without knowing that he's going to be this way, and then all of a sudden being like, oh my god, and it's not Hollywooded up. It's just very, it's just a very honest scene. Honest is like the best term I think to describe most of it. Yeah. But he just makes me so uncomfortable, and I think it's because of the one movie, the Scary Movie. I don't remember which Scary Movie it was. Scary Movie number or something. But he just Scary
made me
Movie
really,
2. Yeah.
Was it 2?
Yeah.
He always makes me so uncomfortable. And then he comes out in the camisole thing, and he's just like, hey. And it's like, oh, don't do that. Go put your shirt back on. Like, you know he spilled the wine on purpose.
Exactly.
And it's like, they only said things that, like they lent to the idea that that's what was going on when she was like, oh yeah, I rejected you like 5 years ago. You know, so then it kind of clicked in my brain. Oh, okay, I see what's going on here.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was just extremely relatable. And I just really liked it. And I'm still trying to think on that question, like what would be my favorite part.
It's just a very honest, feel good, kind of enjoyable experience.
Yeah, like it's something that I would recommend, not everybody, but to some people, just because it is touchy in certain aspects. You know, depending on the person, it's like
right.
You gotta kind of feel it out if that's something that you can sit through. But I thought it was done very well. But I can see people having issues with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair way to sum it up. It's a very honest, feel-good movie, but it's not necessarily for everybody.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If David Cross creeps you out too much, definitely avoid Obvious Child. But if what we've said makes it sound like this is something that you would want to watch, it is free on Netflix. That's how I watched it. But if you don't have Netflix... If you don't have Netflix, it is anywhere between $1 and $3 on iTunes, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, and Vudu. So if you have Netflix, you definitely don't have an excuse not to check this movie out. I think it's really funny. It's really great. It's a nice change up from, like we've said, the typical Hollywood archetype movie of like
rom-com.
A woman, exactly, rom-com, or like you're Juno or you're Knocked Up, or I hate that I keep on, like, I don't hate Juno. I'm sorry, I keep on referencing that. Juno is a good, enjoyable, and I like it. It's just like it's different. It's very it's a very different but unique and enjoyable movie.